I'm curious, do you think that to build the best search engine, do you need to operate the biggest relay? Do you think those are coupled, or they might be decoupled? Thanks for reaching out. I'm glad we got a chance to connect. I think you had shared. I was trying to follow our DM, so I think you just recently met Max. It sounds like, and maybe you met him through something of our Twitter interactions.
I launched the Realsearch.cc like a month and a half ago, and I posted it on StackerNews, and people posted a link to his post like this, how to disrupt Google.
Oh, cool.
And from there I learned about him, and I wrote him like that very day, and then in a week or two Nostr exploded, so I like quickly switched there with my thing, and yeah, that's where we are.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I just for a little bit of my background on sort of my interest in all of this stuff is I've kind of been in Silicon Valley for 20 plus years. I actually was very early at Google as an engineer, so I actually worked on when it was just a search engine back at it, and I've been intrigued by all kinds of new technologies that things like how people gather online and how information gets published. I think is like very important for the kinds of changes that could happen around kind of around information organization and search. So it's an area that I'm like very passionate about. So I was glad to see that you're working on this. And then I've been sort of a Bitcoiner for a long time too. So what we first saw Nostr. I was organizing a Discord, and we were, with a bunch of Bitcoiners, we were sort of all trading interesting things. And we found Nostr about a year ago, and we thought, oh, this looks really interesting, but okay, where's the reference implementation? How do we actually use it? So now we have one, and now it seems like it's kind of explosive, which is great. And then it sounds like you've sort of been working on, from the thing you sent me on the Twitter DM, there's like a bunch of different projects you have in mind around like paid relays and search. And, I wonder sort of, how do you think about what to focus on from those?
Yeah. So originally I've been working on search engine optimization like tools for webmasters for like 5, 6, 7 years now. And I'm actually still running there at that company a web crawler that does like 10 billion web pages per month. And so I've got like the experience processing all the data, and I've been into Bitcoin also for the last like many years. And as Lightning Network was like growing, I had this idea of, well, I've been crawling the web, and I should build a search engine up with it, and I should use Lightning Network to fund it, to get revenue from it. And so like the last year allowed me to switch full-time on that. So I decided to try finally. And with Nostr, I also saw it in some podcast like maybe 6 months ago. And I just checked it out. There were like 5 people there, and I was like, okay, this might be interesting, but without like some push from the outside. It's like just a text file somewhere. But when things started moving very fast there, I decided to dig in too, and like I guess I've written a text file today to Max about like the strategic plan that I think makes sense. So I guess that Nostr, since it has gotten this initial push and like some amount of development time is now spent on it, it has future as the very simple and yet powerful, like based on cryptography protocol. So it's definitely going to take some place in the future, and probably going to replace some of existing products, but maybe some new products will be built on it, and new niches. The Nostr Twitter, like the social space use case that is exploding now, if it wins, then of course there needs to be a search, like big part of the discovery, because on the protocol level there's sort of a discovery thing through following other people, but there is no search. And even if you like sort of add it there, like the capability of relays to answer search queries, no hobbyist is gonna be able to like index the whole thing anyway. So it's gonna be like several centralized services. So the search is definitely a priority here. And but since the space is moving so fast and it's not really clear like when and is it already growing steadily, it might be that it's not gonna take off for a while, and it might be that some other use case might take off before that. So it's like I wouldn't.
Or search?
No, not for the search. For Nostr, on Nostr, I mean, like maybe some commerce application starts taking off or something like this. Maybe some community that tried to get off the ground somewhere else switches to Nostr and brings their like features and their buzz here. So I'm trying to be like really open-minded at this stage, not to like overinvest in thinking like that I've got the solution for like the long term. And I guess there are many unanswered questions like in Nostr ecosystem, because like we had a conversation yesterday with a guy who is like running a very beefy relay, and he's spent like 3 terabytes of traffic and he can't like pay these bills, and he's asking the question of like, how are we going to scale this thing somehow to still let the hobbyists contribute but not run out of money. And so maybe there has to be
what, like the beefy relay that he's running. He said 3 terabytes. That's his bandwidth in and out.
Out egress ban. That's not storage. That's traffic, outbound traffic.
Is that the high order bit on the cost? Is the egress bandwidth? Or is the
yeah, he said so. Yeah.
Okay.
So
I wonder, like, if you were to sort of imagine what it looks like today, to like let's say wave magic wand, okay, and you can fill the very best relay possible, which is like the very best storage, and maybe it's like global replication with good peering arrangements and good egress rate and stuff. Like, what do you think it costs today? Not like months from now might be a lot different, but what is it today? Is it like $100 a day, $1,000 a day, 10,000? Like, what do you think order of magnitude?
Well, it obviously should depend on the number of users. Like today, you mean today's user base?
Today.
Or
yeah, not 1 month, just today. Given today, the amount of data, what do you think that is? Just order back.
So there is like, it's an order of like 5,000 events published daily, I guess.
Was there?
Oh no, no. Sorry, I'm wrong. I'm talking probably about just posts. So yeah, 5, 6.
Stats. You look at that one.
I'm looking at my own stats. If you want, I can post a link to you.
Okay.
It's nostr/band/stats HTML.
Okay, I'll just send that. That was the that I was looking at.
Yeah, so that one is mine has a bit better coverage in terms of completeness, like recall, yeah, and he covers more types of data. I don't care about like all the other event kinds. I just focus on the text. So there's like 7,000. There's like, yeah, let's take a look at that thing. So the first graph is actually a little bit of a question for me. I published it like 2 days ago. So the daily active users who published like any event, like liked something or replied or followed someone. So it's, as you can see there, it's like at 2,000 daily active users for a couple of weeks, even though the total number of users is growing at like 2% per day. So there is really high churn today. Users are not activating or not reactivating after they like set up their account. So that's a question here. And so today there would be 5, 6, 7,000 posts per day, and overall total number of events, let's say 35,000. That's 1 kilobyte. So it's like 35 megabytes per day published. That's like nothing in terms of storage, and it's nothing in terms of inbound traffic. But in terms of output, like reading from Relay, it might be a very high number, because every client reads from like 10 to 20 relays, and they request a lot of excessive data many times, because clients are not that smart yet to like really do proper filtering. So I'd say we could multiply that like by 100 probably, and so 3 gigabytes per day, that's already a terabyte. So probably that guy has like even more. I would say that at most like 10 servers like his would do, and I host mine on headsner.com. It's like a European big dedicated server provider, and you can buy like a server for $40 a month there. So it might be like
at the data center. Do you have exclusive use of that server?
Yeah. Mine is a bit bigger, but like the one that is of his size is probably like $40-50 per month, and multiply by 10, it's like $500 per month. Like the whole Nostr ecosystem could, I think, that's the cost of hosting it, really. And today there are like 200 relays, many of which are much beefier than than this guy's server. So in terms of hardware, there's like no shortage of hardware. There is a problem with routing, like where should we store this or that data to properly load balance the traffic from clients.
And that's for the purpose of running a great relay, or for the purpose of like running search properly?
For the purpose of running a great relay. That's what I was talking about. So for search, again, it depends on traffic, and since the search queries are much like rarer, people do search not so often as they just scroll their feed. So for me, like following 200 relays and downloading all their data and like duplicating it, etc., like one server is much more than is needed. There are like several other things that I host there. So in terms of hardware, like I don't see a problem there. So what I was leading to in the my previous idea about like this guy being constrained is that at some point they will have to think about distributing the load. And like one idea might be to like shard data. Maybe we store, split the whole namespace of events by hashing the ID, etc. But like today, this guy contacted me and he says I'm running a relay for Southern Florida. He wants to build a community around it, and he wants to somehow get from all the Nostr ecosystem, from all the relays, just the nodes about Southern California. Like he's got like 20 names of different cities, and he wants to get them searched and somehow inserted into his relay. And we
why? What is that? Is there sort of like an application use case that supports that?
I don't know. That's just what he wants to try. He wants to try to build his own community around his own server, and so maybe I changed the code in my search bot, and instead of reposting those events that are matching the search query, I was just throwing them at his relay. And so maybe like the whole ecosystem might, instead of sharding by K, might shard at like much higher level, like by topic. Maybe this guy is gonna run this community and he is going to use, let's say, my data service to filter events for him based on his wishes, and somehow he manages to
that relay to manage for those communities. Like that relay is meant to be a community-specific relay. But he's thinking about search, or he's not thinking about it from a search perspective, just from a relay operator?
No, he's just trying to play with the whole thing. But the point is that it might turn out that Nostr relays are much more heterogeneous in terms of what they want to store, and they want to be like aware at the content level of what they're storing, and they have to somehow filter the whole feed and get only the stuff they want, and maybe they are going to use my service for that. So that's what I'm talking about. Like the ecosystem is really like just trying to shape itself into something, and which points of like contention or like easy access to data will form is a question. I guess the search is one of them, and but it might be at the relay level or at the user level. Those are
what's sort of your like? I mean, obviously, I think we're all excited about these ideas in many ways that can go in so many directions. So I think we all have probably shared excitement. But like, if you do you have a vision for what you get excited? Like, do you want to achieve a certain direction with it? Like, you want to solve search, or you want to solve the best relay, or you just want to kind of figure out, hack around it, and see what is most interesting at the time?
Search is interesting for me, and I think it is valuable here. But like the primary goal of mine is to build a business around it, around Bitcoin, and like build a business around Bitcoin. And I think Nostr cannot really live without like Lightning Network, because an open relay has to be compensated somehow, otherwise it's gonna be spammed and dosed, and Lightning Network is basically the only thing that can really work here. So if we make Nostr succeed, then probably we're going to help Bitcoin succeed. So that's like great.
Yeah, and I would almost say it even further, which is like, I think that Nostr and the kind of loose collection of relay and client interactions are going to be the very best and first and biggest important use case where like the old financial system doesn't work and only this new system does work. So it's almost like, I think I agree with what you're saying. Nostr may help Bitcoin, but I also think maybe Nostr is sort of the premier use case for Bitcoin.
Yeah, it's actually possible that is the case if it succeeds, like in some close future. So like my goal is to build a business. I have my interest in search, but I have been trying to play with different projects like many times in these years, and I get very interested and obsessed about some idea that I want to pursue, and that has not ended well yet. So I'm trying to like keep an open mind about where I'm heading, trying to find like really look into the feedback that the world gives me. Right now, the search looks really promising, and I want to focus on that. maybe like 70% of my resource and thinking, but still leave like a sizable portion for just looking through what else is coming, because it's really it's a really new space, and there are so many niches that are in other protocol stacks have already been like taken, and serious businesses were built around them. Yep. And here it's all empty, and so
a very green field, right? That's what makes it exciting.
Yeah.
And so just some thoughts. So I hear that you're saying you are excited about search and you're thinking about ways to build a business, but you also want to be sort of flexible to figure out when, as things are learned, sort of how to navigate, so not sort of totally committed to just the one direction. Well, I haven't done like a really exhaustive survey. It sounds like you already know like a lot of other people running relays and stuff like that. Do you find that there are like a bunch of different approaches people are taking right now to search, or do you think that search is, there's just not many people focused on it yet, or sort of what is sort of the lay of the land look like, you think?
There are really like 3 people working on search, and one of them just added search into his relay. So like you can search through the data on his relay, but not all the data of Nostr. And the other guy started a search, and we had a quick chat with him about like what he's doing. I think the primary thing that he's missing is the idea about how to like filter spam and like select the high quality stuff and throw out the garbage, because I spend a lot of time like building search engine optimization tools. I know pretty well how Google works, and we've built our own internal page rank metric, and I know how well it works. And so I've got the
page rank. Is it inspired by Google's PageRank, or is it more custom?
It's by So at my previous like job, in our index of like 30 billion pages, we've got a page rank, and I have built a variation of it, trust rank, let's say, for Nostr, and I use it now for to like filter spam and rank the trending stuff on the homepage of Nostr Band. And so,
what are the basics of the algorithm for the trust rank?
It's the same idea as PageRank. Every event is a node in the graph, and the links it has to like pop case and other events are links. And the only trust rank aspect here is that when I start calculating the PageRank, I assign weights to like trusted accounts that have like NIP05 verification, or have like Twitter account with a significant number of followers, and from there it goes. So this works like pretty well from what I can see, and it is really hard to game. Like today, some guy was spamming one of the relays with fake accounts, like the bots, and those accounts were posting some stuff, and they even included proof of work, like a modest 2-bit proof of work. And this is going to happen. Like this open network is going to get spammed like to death as soon as any kind of interest in economic activity starts there, any amount of eyeballs gets there, and so it's actually it actually every relay is gonna have to deal with it, but at least relays are gonna just install the Lightning Network paywall, and they're gonna be like, okay, I'm fine accepting this thing if you pay me. But in search, like, you have to filter and prioritize stuff that is hard to game. Like a bot can make like a thousand followers for itself, a thousand replies, 1,000 likes. If there is no robust method to like filter this search is not gonna work.
Right.
So I guess like this is, yeah.
When you think about that, kind of establishing that trust rank, it sounds like you're using signals from like at the account level and not sort of at the content level. Is that right?
The initial weights are assigned to accounts that I believe can be trusted to be valid, high quality accounts.
I think like a handful, maybe 5, 10, 20 accounts that you say are the trust.
No, not 20. I guess it's around 2,000 at the moment.
Oh.
So like accounts that have Twitter verification and their Twitter account is like 1,000 followers or more. Or accounts that have like NIP05 verification, like the domain name, email address sort of attached to their Nostr account. So some way to filter to get some serious amount of accounts that are high quality. And from there, like when you start the calculation, the weights flow through both accounts and posts. So every post has got a like trust rank metric, and every account has got a trust rank metric.
Do you feel like the 2,000 accounts that you're currently calling sort of the top level trusted ones, do you think that there's, the scale of, you feel like that's actually an effective way, or does that introduce probably, I'm just imagining out loud, a Twitter account may have a lot of followers, but actually may be very low quality. It's very possible.
Yeah.
Because it has to do more with the graph of Twitter. Who are the followers and how important are they?
The initial set is going to have to evolve, like from where we are, because there are like, for instance, talks about like adding a way to verify your account through like burning some bitcoins or something like this. So this side is definitely is gonna evolve, because as you said, people are going to try to game it as soon as they find out that it matters. But I think it's solvable, because even if you focus on like NIP verification, like attached domain name, you can just blacklist those domain names that are selling or giving away free verifications, and only leave domains that like take real payment from like real people, and you just basically have to attach some serious cost to the accounts that you think are trusted, and we can go from there. I think this is going to evolve, definitely. What it is now is just like something that seems to work at the moment. So it's like this whole ecosystem at the moment is trying to somehow get the user involved in terms of like, you can choose some relay, and most of users don't understand that, and they don't do it, of course. And it also tries to like be smart itself. Like maybe if you follow like 100 accounts, it may find 10 relays such that all of your followed accounts are on those, and you can only choose these. But honestly, the clients are not really smart at this point. Like, they don't really do a good job here. And I'm not even convinced it's like possible in the long term, because even now there are like 200 relays, out of which like 20 are used and the rest are just sitting idle. I've got my own relay. It's a like big machine, and it's not used by anyone except me, maybe. And so relay discovery is not a solved problem. Load balancing is not a solved problem. And honestly, even though like there is much hope for decentralization in Nostr, really there is no like protocol level push against centralization like there is in Bitcoin with the block size limit. And so like every client is financially incentivized to get users to his own relay to capture their revenue from them. And every relay is incentivized to like grow and to serve his users to capture more revenue. And so these are all centralizing forces essentially. So I guess there will be several really big relays that can host everyone. And there will probably be many small hobbyist style relays, maybe for local communities or just for fun. I don't know. But like overall, I think relay side is going to centralize. Like I don't think there is a way to avoid that, as if it catches like on with a mass adoption, because like these small yeah.
I was gonna say I'm not too worried about I agree with you that I think relays will centralize. I'm not too worried about it because I think the types of centralization may actually just be good for UX, and the option to opt out is still present, right? So it depends, like, you know, I don't know your feelings about Coinbase, but a lot of Bitcoiners hate Coinbase. But I think Coinbase is actually productive. It's a centralizing force, which I wish was not so important, but it actually is not. You're not beholden to Coinbase. Nobody is beholden to Coinbase. You can choose to use it, and it's very centralizing and kind of like too powerful for my taste. But I think it's actually kind of what a good relay might look like. It's just like there's probably going to be a few big ones. You know, maybe it's Kraken, Binance, Coinbase. You know, I don't know. Maybe there's like a River. You know, there's maybe a bunch of different ones that all have, you know, some sort of scale and importance, but not where there's just one. Like you must use the client from Twitter, right? That thing I think is the possibility that now Nostr and relays offer.
Yeah, I agree totally. The reason I mentioned this centralization idea is because I don't think you will like have to care about like which relay you're running on and where your people are. Right. And there will not be even a problem probably, because like you're going to be able to connect like 2-3 big relays, and that will be like all you need. But given that the ecosystem is open, and I think it makes sense to think about it as we think about the web. So like the web itself is open, but still there's one search engine effectively, and there is one client effectively, like Chrome. And but even though there is just one, it's still open if you don't like Chrome. And if Chrome starts doing bad things, you can just uninstall it, and it takes like 5 minutes. There is no way to install like different Twitter something and get all of the same data. But it is true with the web, and it will be true with Nostr. So yeah, I don't think it's a problem. And I guess with all the open markets, competitive open markets, there will probably emerge like 1, 2, 3, 5 big players. That's like inevitable. And it's probably a good thing to have for someone who is trying to build a business in this like open area.
Yeah, I think it's, you know, it's nice that there's so much open source and so much permissionlessness, but I don't think it means there can't also be big businesses built. But I think the businesses will end up probably being fairly centralizing in certain ways, but not so centralizing as Twitter. So it's like, you know, it just shifts the playing field. It's much nicer, you know. I'm curious, do you think that to build the best search engine, do you need to operate the biggest relay? Do you think those are coupled, or they might be decoupled?
I think they might be decoupled, and I think that if search is probably gonna be like 1, 2 maybe players, big winners in this relay area, there will probably be more than that. And primarily the reason for that, at least the reason for that, is legal arbitrage, like in terms of what you store according to local laws. So like this whole censorship thing, like if I host a relay in Europe and European laws do not allow some content here. Those who want to have that content are going to flock to other relays that are stored in other jurisdictions where those laws do not apply. And so at least for that, I would say there probably will be like 10, 20 something relays in big different jurisdictions. At the same, it might be similar to maybe Amazon AWS. Like it has a huge share of like hosting market, but it's not like 70-90% like Google does. Yep. And yeah, that's what I think about it.
All right. And so if a search engine and relays were decoupled, how I guess I don't have a strong intuition that that's true or not true. I'm sort of like exploring that idea, but I think a very large relay has the best information about the connectivity of the graph. And so in sort of what I mean by that is like, I think a lot of the signals of like, I put down some Lightning Bitcoin value are gameable depending on the goal. So if I'm like, if I want to sell you to get you on my porn site and all it costs me is like, 1,000 sats, and then we say, oh, it must be good because it has 1,000 sats. Mm-hmm. If I can get you to my porn site and sell porn subscriptions, that can easily pay for it. So I think oftentimes the value, it's hard to use the value as kind of as certain as I think we would hope that it could be, because ultimately it's kind of like there's still policy that Google would insert its own policy about what is allowed to be in an ad creative, because otherwise you just get like a very spammy ad creative that gets lots of clicks, and so it drives the algorithm. It's cheaper advertising. So I think those same kind of dynamics will be at play around just staking Bitcoin, sort of to verify an account or something. But I think
yes,
the part that is that probably will always be true is that if you sort of pick a few nodes to start effectively like this trust rank or crawl type activity, and in Google's case those are web domains. I think in the Nostr version those are public keys, right? So it's like a person-centric thing. But I think if you look at that person and you look at who they're following and who's following them, and then what are the qualities of those accounts, you watch how many zaps are like it. I think zaps, the zaps concept, right?
No, not yet. I've seen it a couple of times today, but I didn't dig into it yet.
I haven't dug in, but my understanding is I think William is putting zaps directly into a note.
Zaps meaning that someone paid someone. Yeah. So I guess
works at the profile level, and I think my understanding, and I'm not an expert, it's evolving quickly, but my understanding is a zap is a Lightning payment at the node level.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
I think he wants to publish the event proving that someone made it, like this public key made a payment to this pub key, something like this, to then use it to like all sorts of metrics.
That's the signal. So somebody staked 1,000 sats almost doesn't tell you anything, because they may be making 1 million sats somewhere else. But the fact that, let's say, William zapped a note by an E, I know that William is a good actor, right? He's not trying to sell me porn. He's trying to just, make the client better, make the ecosystem better. So if he chose to zap one note that I made, that's actually a very, very strong signal. Even though maybe he only gave me 2 sats, it's a very strong signal. So I think who pays who, like where the Lightning invoices or where the Lightning payments flow from trusted account, like start with a handful of trusted accounts, say, Jack, Moneyball, JB55, PetShop. Start with a handful, watch who they choose to follow, watch who they choose to zap nodes for, and then create kind of this trust rank based on sort of the waterfall down, like, okay, like Moneyball follows me, And then maybe, so that gives me a little bit of credit as being trusted, not full credit, but trusted enough. And then maybe he zaps me a little bit, so that boosts my trust level, right? And then then people that I follow get a little bit of his trust in the same way, right? So it's very much like that PageRank idea, but I think starting narrow on the trusted set and kind of trying to decouple existing signals. Like, I think the signals of a lot of Twitter followers is actually kind of like it's probably a very gameable signal and subject to maybe some, a system structured on that can be gamed in a way that I think is going to be unhealthy.
Of course.
But a system structured on like a small handful of chosen nodes, right? And then watching how payments flow from those actors and watching how followership flows from those actors is, I think, going to be the gold standard for what like the PageRank in this ecosystem looks like. And the reason, so that's why I asked about the decoupling between the relays and the search engine is because the relays are going to know a lot about who follows who. And they might be pretty open about it, but they might always have like a little bit of a better visibility into that. They could become an advantage.
Yeah, so
if they're highly centralized, like you and I are both hypothesizing.
Let's like start from there. So obviously, for search to be like useful, really, it has to like have full coverage. So I want to have access to all the relays. And then there is no effective way for a relay to hide anything from me. Because like I can create, even if they whitelist some IP addresses or public keys or do any kind of this thing, I'm going to get their data out of them, just like other clients who are going to use them gets this data. So like with the web, there is no really a way for a relay to say, well, I'm not gonna serve you. What they can do is they can charge me some amount of money. And then if I charge my users more on that, then I've got a profit. And that's how it supposedly is going to play out. Like relays provide lower level feature of like just storing and maybe serving very trivial queries. And I have to pay them to get access to their data, just like any other client has to pay them, but those clients gonna pay less and I'm gonna have to pay more for the bigger volume. But then I'm going to resell at a much higher cost, at a much higher price to my clients. Right. So, and this difference is going to be my revenue. So I don't think that the public Nostr Twitter thing can effectively balkanize, can effectively hide if it's not really a private network, like it's really behind a firewall, then I cannot access it. If it's not behind the firewall, I am going to be able to read from there. As soon as I find out the address of this thing.
But I wonder, will there be signal that's lost by an outside observer, say like, let's say a relay charges and, maybe a relay escalates the cost for certain actors or players in the ecosystem or changes the pricing, and certain people choose to drop off. And they say, no, I'm not going to pay that relay. I'll pay 10 sats a month, but not 100 sats a month or something. So the relay then knows, okay, this one is willing to pay this price. This one's willing to pay even more. So the relay then knows, drop that one out from a quality perspective, increase that one from a quality perspective. So
that's an interesting question. Yeah. So what I was, I was trying to go to the next point about the value rank. I think both payments like zaps and just normal, as they are today, normal links, they are the same thing. They are a link between one entity, one object, and another entity. And maybe the zaps should have maybe different weight assigned to this kind of link. But it still should be a said it still should be a graph, and I still should be tracking like how much links came to this node and how much then links went away from this same node, how much page rank was flowing into it, and how much page rank was flowing out of it, all this stuff. So just like counting how many sats he received is the same gameable thing as likes or reposts, because this guy may be paying to himself essentially, like in different ways.
Yeah, you could have like a count.
Yeah. So as I said, I'm definitely going to play around with different approaches in terms of who is being trusted at the beginning of PageRank trust rank calculations. And I just started with a simple thing that came to mind. And since no one's really trying to game the system at the moment, it probably works. As soon as people start gaming it, it's actually pretty obvious. Because like I myself, when I was playing with trending links and posts and people, when I see like a spammy account, I just go and look into the algorithm and understand why he got there, and like I fix it. So I guess like through iteration, we're going to come to something. And if more tools are developed, like maybe Bitcoin burning or some other thing, or maybe we're going to have like a hard-coded number of accounts, like 1,000 big accounts of big people. I don't know where we arrive. But I definitely think that trying to reinvent the wheel after Google has successfully used PageRank for like 20 years on this huge open ecosystem that is web, it just makes no sense. We just should go with that algorithm and simply adjust it to the like specifics of this new network.
Right. Well, I think in a sense, the magic of Google was that the web was present, and there was all this signal that was just hidden in plain sight. Right. So in a sense, it was the signal that the backlinks from anchor tags to websites and the text that was contained in that anchor tag should actually be indexed as part of the information of that page, even if the page itself didn't list it, right?
Yeah.
And I think understanding what are the signals that are hidden in plain sight here is, I think, like in my mind, what's most important to do is like, what are the signals hidden in plain sight? And I think Google is actually not effective at looking at follower graphs as a way to decide quality. Like Google starts the crawl at stanford.edu, doesn't start the crawl at, say, like JB55. And Google looks at text in anchor text, right? It doesn't look at zaps or lightning payments from this trusted website, node public key to this other public key, which is actually the same. I would say that's the analogy, is the anchor text and the lightning payment from one to another. It's that from to that really matters, because I think that's what generated all of the additional quality that Google figured out. And like the search engines back, Alta Vista, Yahoo, etc., they were just like kind of naively indexing. Oh, like you get keyword stuff, 1,000. I write the word, whatever, money 1,000 times in the page, and that must be relevant to money. Same as if I like stuff a bunch of Bitcoin into an account, doesn't really tell me that much. It's like easily gameable, but it's the interactivity between trusted nodes and the transference of trust that is the magic. Now, Google's not good at public key analysis, graph analysis around public keys, and it's not good at understanding the payments around a particular node and what that means about the accounts that write it, as well as the quality of the information in that node. Like, that's just not part of how Google operates. It probably won't for years. So I think it's why the opportunity exists.
Yeah. So regarding the anchor text, while I was building Realsearch, like the web search thing, I had to use the anchor text, because without this information, like, there's no way to like show Facebook as the first result for a keyword Facebook without actually taking into account like the 1 million links that say Facebook is this thing. And so there it was definitely like absolutely necessary. With the Nostr at the moment, this search on Nostr at the moment is just literally like this thing matches, like it contains these two words, and it's just ordered by time, and there's just plain filter of that cuts off the total garbage. That's the way search works today at my website. As time goes on and more stuff gets published, there will have to be some better signal found that will allow us to spot better stuff. What will it be? I'm not sure yet. There are various problems, like in terms of differences of Nostr from web. First of all, like all the posts are really short, so you can get like much of TF, IDF stuff to like work because there's not really much content, and links don't have anchor. So it will probably work just like Twitter search works, where it has like two modes. One mode is like everything, just like it is on my site now. And the other one is like not everything, but like you just raise the popularity bar much higher. Like the same idea, just with the essentially page rank bar much higher. I think we will start from there and then see where it goes. Like, because if it turns out that people are not satisfied with this and they demand more, or like they stuff that the way that it works is not usable for their use cases, then maybe we're gonna have to figure it out. But like looking at what Twitter's doing, I would say that this naive approach with just plain page rank, trust rank, as it is today, it kind of works more or less. So I think it's solvable.
Do you think about sort of making the search available to clients, or do people have to go directly to your website, or how do you think about that?
Yeah, so right now I'm trying, I have added the like keyword search capability into my relay, and I'm trying to convince like some client to add this to their app. I think it is important to have this like feature, because like it makes no sense if you can't search inside the app. Right. And it makes no sense to provide this capability through something other than Nostr protocol itself. It just makes no sense to like have a separate API that is non-standard. So it makes sense to like have some client implement it, then I will offer it as a NIP, and we'll see if it gets accepted. And even if like 1% of all relays start offering this, a client can still find that relay and just like use it for this specific feature, those several relays that offer it. So, and if that happens, if many clients integrate with my search, then eventually when clients start accepting like and forwarding some revenue to relays, then some part of it is going to have to flow to me. That's like this side. But I'm also really interested in building like the way for web users to find Nostr and to get onboarded on Nostr. So the web users are gonna type in Google something like, what did Jack Dorsey say? And if there's a link to a Nostr post on my website in Google, then they're going to land on my website, and I will show them the thread where Jack Dorsey said something, and I'm going to offer them to open their app, like if they're already using some Nostr app.
Yes.
And if they don't, then there will be like get started button, and I'm gonna build them an onboarding flow where we're gonna choose like which client that I want to use. Do they have like Lightning wallet? Let's fill your profile. Let's now choose the best app that is gonna suit you. That's how you store the pub case, all that stuff. That's how you set up the NIP name. That's how you buy it from me, all that stuff. So if I can get, so I don't want to build Nostr band as a client. I want this thing to be a neutral, like viewer into Nostr. And if I succeed in that, then it might be the landing page for external users. When they can't search anything Nostr, they will land on Nostr band. And
it sounds like maybe the primary consideration on how distribution might work is you try to make Nostr.band a high quality information source.
Yeah.
That gets a lot of people discovering their Nostr journey through you.
Yeah. Because the other web clients or websites around Nostr, they're not really good for Google to like really index. So if you can feed any client there is to Google, because the client is just a bunch of scripts. It has to know your pub key maybe, and has to connect to a lot of stuff and render the page maybe someday if it loads all the stuff. So if I make this much more focused on Google, for Google to have it like more convenient and pre-rendered on server, maybe even. And then if I only show to Google the popular stuff, like Google does not want like to index millions short posts. It doesn't care about them. But if I show Google only the best posts that were shared on other social media, for instance, like I've got some experience with Google, so I think I can manage that. And I don't think any other person is doing this, so this might again be an edge for me if I start doing it early and advance there and get all the backlinks. So yeah, this way I would be able to capture some traffic that is like new to Nostr, and if they get familiar with Nostr with my help, then I'll probably like get associated for life, and they will be my customer for life.
Right.
Hopefully.
Yeah, I can see the thinking there, and it is kind of a very SEO centric view of the world. I would just offer an alternative way to consider, which is not as SEO centric, but there's a lot of people out there right now who are building clients for Nostr. Mm-hmm. Obviously, the Damus is a great one, and I think Snort Social seems to be catching a lot of attention these days. And, there's a lot of people who are coming to Nostr through, other types of, they hear about it on Twitter or through other types of landing pages. I've seen some other people building like these canonical resources of what is Nostr, what is Damus, how do you do this?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so another way to think about it is don't try to control the search and onboarding experience, but try to be of service to the clients wherever they exist. And so like maybe step one of that in my mind is like make a pull request for Damus to integrate your search.
That I will try to get the clients to integrate, but the problem with this approach, like long-term problem, is that I don't get really any exposure to the user, essentially, because the user is gonna type hello, his search query in Damus app, and Damus app of course is going to query me and return results, but the user is not gonna know that there exists such a thing as Nostr band that served it, her, and so I'm definitely going down that road for sure, because some revenue is gonna be there for me to capture. But I also want to be visible outside the clients too somehow. And like the way I understand how to do that is through SEO. Because I don't have any experience with any other approaches, maybe. So
Yeah, I mean,
the integration is definitely a way to go, for sure.
yeah, I wouldn't be as concerned. I mean, I understand your concerns. I think they're valid, but everything's trade-offs, right? Like, what can get you farther faster? And
Okay.
SEO, like, there's a lot of people who are building those types of canonical resources. So I think you could build a good one, but SEO takes a long time to really kick in, and people discover it through you, but might also then want you help them begin their journey, but then they might also sort of find other things. So I understand why it's attractive, but I also think everything is trade-offs, and I think the most important thing is your service getting used is actually more important than is your service heavily branded and in a user's mind initially. And I know we've been making a lot of Google analogies, so we'll continue the Google analogies. Like, obviously Google started with Google.com and was gained enough notoriety as its own brand. But what was really important to Google's early success was being the default search engine for Yahoo and for AOL.
Yeah, I agree with that. And that's why the thing I'm doing today is trying to integrate it into some client and not really focusing on the SEO thing. So I think SEO is much longer term vision for where I would probably get much more traffic exclusive for me. But like the short term goal is definitely more about like getting more usage through integration. Yeah. But
and
totally agree.
Yeah, I would also say, like, I think this diverges from the Google story, but I think it's less important for a user to understand that they're using your search engine early. I think it's more important to be used a lot, because usage itself compounds. You see more queries, you serve more queries, and you might even be able to service people in a way that's better, that causes the clients to want to send something about the results traffic back, like who clicked on which links. Maybe you don't get that initially, but maybe you get to build that in compound. But actually seeing more queries compounds, even if the user doesn't know that they're using it. So I'm a bit of a fan. I mean, obviously we're just brainstorming, but I'm a bit of a fan of, like, can you, even if you have to be somewhat invisible, can you be of service to lots of clients so that you make their services better? They just like integrate your pull request, and then they merge your pull request, then they get all your functionality. The trade is you get all kinds of user query information, which helps you improve the search engine. And then over time, people come to say, well, I only want to use the client that has Nostr banned for search, because they learned that it's better, right? So it's in a sense, it's a little bit of like a more, taking the perspective of just be a best service to the ecosystem, and then good things will happen, instead of trying to get like, in a sense, to me, SEO feels a little bit like the world we're coming from, but doesn't help you build a strong brand. Basically, SEO, I always think of this, is SEO really helps you build Google's brand, but it doesn't really help you build your own brand.
The first part totally makes sense. And about the Google brand, not much I can say. Like the Twitter has got like 10% of, like, the biggest percent of external traffic to Twitter comes from Google. And the same thing is going to happen to Nostr, because like the Google at the moment is much bigger than Nostr. And someone is going to be there anyway. So maybe this is not
all of the search pages. I think the idea you have of being those search pages is a strong one. I like that idea a lot. So if I write a note in Nostr, it doesn't have any reliable place to live on the web today. Like, you being that place seems like a good idea. It's kind of an SEO type idea. That one seems strong. it doesn't have as much of the like knowledge of the network, because Google doesn't know how to evaluate the public key and following graphs, right? So it'll just have to be that the piece of content is just very relevant and it's fresh, right?
I haven't given enough thought to like how I'm going to present it to Google. It probably has to be a thread, because a thread will have more content for Google to have more context. And maybe I'm gonna have to feed Google the schema, like the annotated version, JSON version of the stuff that is on the page, for it to understand things better. As I said, this is like longer term, low priority thing that I keep in mind as a way to get usage long term, something like this. Let's call it a secret that no one's probably thinking about. I haven't seen anyone like think about it or mention it, so it may be already in my head.
Yeah. Well, I think it can probably augment and help long term, like you're saying. But if I were working on this, I would say like priority number one is write the PRs that get merged into all the big clients, so that you get all the queries, which helps you improve the service, even if no end user knows the Nostr.band brand.
Okay.
I think that's sort of, anyway, that's just my perspective.
Makes sense. Okay, thank you.
But I mean, this, I think everything's changing fast. There's lots of directions that stuff can all go. So I think your approach of being very experimental, I think, is a good one. Being, responsive to what you're hearing and seeing, and kind of learning about the ecosystem seems like the right approach, because it's so early, right? Cool. Well, I love getting to meet you and learn about what you're building. I think this is super cool. I think we're obviously both very passionate about this area, and like there's a lot to explore. So I think I would invite that we should, do this catch up kind of thing more frequently and keep learning together.
First of all, thank you very much for this last input. It's probably really valuable. I guess a lot of questions are now in my mind about should I maybe build a team for this already, or should I keep doing it alone? At the moment, I updated my profile on Nostr. Maybe someone is going to want to join me from that ecosystem, because there are many builders there. Maybe I will think on this and send you an email if you don't mind.
I like to meet people. I like to learn all about this. I'm making a lot of videos. I'm writing a lot. I'm publishing a lot. So if there's ideas that you're thinking about that you haven't heard an answer for, maybe it becomes something I take on to go research and learn about, and then I can sort of write something and be like, hey, Artur, check it. I found an answer to this question we had. Okay. So don't think you have to come prepared with any questions. I just thought it'd be fun to chat and let you know. Use me as a resource. If you can think of a thing that you want to know more about, or a person that you want to hear something from, let's go chase them down, and we'll get all the best information out there.